Welcome to our NAM Zoom panel, Pandemic, Panic, or Pivot, brought to you by We Make Events North America and the Audio Engineering Society. My name is Ellen Lampert-Gréaux, Creative Director for Live Design and LDI, and PR Director for We Make Events North America. We are a coalition of industry professionals and organizations working together to raise public awareness for the live events sector during the COVID-19 pandemic and beyond. On September 1st, We Make Events spearheaded a successful call to action, Red Alert Restart, which we'll talk about in a minute. First, I'd like to introduce our panelists, starting with Vickie Claiborne, Training Manager for Disguise in the Americas, Cosmo Wilson, Lighting Designer for AC/DC and a long list of 40 rock bands, Brandon Blackwell, Production Manager and FOH Engineer, Andrew Bongardt, Monitor Engineer with Claire Global, and Tim Quake Mark, Production Manager, Tour Manager, and FOH Engineer. Between them, they have at least 200 years of industry experience. I'd love to start by asking Cosmo to talk a little about We Make Events North America as an organization and segue to what he was doing in Orlando for the Restart event on September 1st. Cosmo, over to you.
Thank you, Ellen. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm honored to be part of this roundtable. But We Can Make Events, to me, I mean, it's funny. There's a lot of people in this business, and our lifestyle is that of which we stay on the dark side of entertainment. So when you see a band on the stage in the light, everybody working behind the scenes is in the dark, and that's the way it's meant to be. We're supposed to be behind the scenes. And I think what the pandemic has shown is that we are out of work, and how many of us are in the industry that bring all these shows, whether it's live concerts, television, Broadway shows. But I mean, We Make Events came about, and what it means to me is it's a group of us, the people in the entertainment industry, the ones literally in the dark, on the dark side, bringing the shows to you that people don't know about. And like I said, we kind of like it that way, but we kind of needed to get it out there. And that's how I feel about We Make Events. And so now it's all of us together now making the events happen, and hopefully we can do it soon.
Okay, so you want to talk a little about September 1st and what you guys did in Orlando, what that event was for and what you guys did?
Well, as you know, it started out as one of these social calls that we had every week, industry calls, and England had already done the Red Alert, similar thing. They were lighting the buildings red. So we decided to do it here and in the States, and everybody had their regional areas. I'm from Orlando, and there's a few iconic things in Orlando. Like every city has its iconic things, and I thought, man, this should be pretty easy to get them to turn things red because they already have lights, in this day and age. It was a little more difficult than I originally hoped, but we managed to get all these buildings, fountains, sculptures, art, installation, and I had my regional director, Lynn Henderson. We reached out to a bunch of companies in the area, lighting companies, the AV companies. We had some video screens and stuff like that. The city got involved. The iconic thing in Orlando is the Lake Eola fountain, which is a beautiful fountain in the middle of the lake in the middle of Orlando. And at first they weren't going to do it, and then they relented and they did it, and it worked out. It worked out great. It definitely was local news. It was well done, and we had a lot of reporters both in print and television do stories on us.
Yeah, it's interesting because across the country, I think there were about 2,500 different buildings and residences and iconic structures that were lit. And some of the cities really, really did an incredible job. Quake, what was going on in upstate New York?
Well, I live in Rochester, New York, and along with my associate, Nikki Polachek, we took care of all of upstate. We had every place from the Times Union Center in Albany, had a couple of colleges in Syracuse, the Hangar Theater in Ithaca. The city of Rochester really stepped up quite a bit. I got in touch with a group called the Rochester Music Hall of Fame. Believe it or not, Rochester has a Music Hall of Fame. There's actually quite a few people from Rochester that are quite famous in this world, not just Chuck Mangione and Lou Gramm. But they, along with their help, I managed to get downtown Rochester, the skyline, all lit up in red. Several businesses participated, the Rochester Convention Center. And I'm also proud to say we got Niagara Falls lit up in red. We had over a dozen places in Buffalo, including a whole section of Main Street that they turned all the street lights red for us, as well as the town ballroom and the IATSE Local 10 building. They lit that whole place up in red. It was a good event and a great opportunity to shine a light on, as Cosmo said, those of us that wear black all the time and that you never see, and you don't really realize that we have lives too.
Exactly. Now, Vickie, what about Las Vegas, which I've always said is the sort of quintessential capital of entertainment in America? You guys put on a live show.
Exactly. The live show idea came about because, as Cosmo said, it turned out to be a lot more difficult to get support in Las Vegas for turning buildings red. You would think, again, with the casinos having LEDs built into the facades and different structures around town, that would have been an easier task. But unfortunately, I think corporations and politics was a little bit involved. So we really didn't get the support from casinos that we were hoping for. We did get 2 casinos participated. I would love to give them a shout out, the Plaza and the Ahern Hotel. They went full steam ahead. The Plaza opened up their arms to us and allowed us to use their brand new outdoor rodeo area to stage a show. Because again, I myself and co-regional director, we were deciding, just really wanted to put together something that did put Las Vegas, that could live up to that title, entertainment, capital of the world. So luckily we had no shortage of support when it came to equipment. We had lots of volunteers. We had entertainment that volunteered their time, and so Show Talent Productions reached out to us and wanted to do they have a fire truck of their own, so they brought that, and it's basically the performers in that are from shows around town, from Cirque and other types of acrobatic shows that have basically been unemployed as well since the beginning of March or middle of March. And so they put together a show. Pyrotech put in all the pyro for it. And then we basically did a show for the live stream. And I will say the Smith Center also rolled out the red carpet for us. We were able to do a road case push, as well as a truss memorial garden. So basically each stick of truss, we had 67 pieces of truss, and each truss represented 1,000 people that estimated were out of work just in Las Vegas. So close to 68,000 people have been unemployed in Las Vegas since March. And that number has grown since, because there have been other casinos that have gone through layoffs. But we definitely wanted to keep Las Vegas on the stage, so to speak. And what better way to do that than let the performers and the companies that wanted to participate actually put on a live event. And we feel that was very successful. That was a very positive message that was supported in town very well.
Yeah, I think it was really quite something, and the whole thing added up to quite a massive call to action. And the goal, of course, was to try to get the Senate and the Congress to pass the Restart Act. And all these months later, 2 months after September, and obviously a lot of months after March, nothing really has happened in terms of restart. And we're still waiting to see about extend PPP and a few of the other relief bills that are coming along the way. So now I think we should sort of go around. Let's go over to Brandon and see what's going on in your world. FOH isn't happening right now, so it's been behind the scenes instead of front of house. What's been going on with you?
Yeah, my time has been spent. I just recently got engaged to my fiance in March, and the new rule is if you can make it through an engagement during a pandemic, you can make it through anything in our family. So we have been just taking advantage of the time. It's time that I'll never get back, hopefully ever again, you know what I mean, this amount of time. And so we basically focused on, or I with my fiance's encouragement, focused on self-healing. So this was the first time I've ever decided to take part in therapy. And, you know, it's something that if I was on tour, I would never be able to take advantage of in this regard, in this way. And then that also led to me looking at different avenues of how to bring in income. I was very successful in my career and have saved a lot of money. And I started to invest my money in the stock market and day trading. Like I tell everyone, just like how our industry is, day trading is not for everyone. It's, you know, it's definitely, you know, when lights go out and the crowd screams, that's the same type of feeling that you get when the bell rings at 9:30. You just don't know what's going to happen, you know, and just like on tour, some days are amazing. You know, when you have great catering that day, and then other days, you know, when you have that 4 or 5 in a row, it's a rough day. But I think just, you know, as touring people and people in this industry, we are resilient, and, you know, we can make it through pretty much anything. And I think, you know, the ones that keep their heads up and stay positive during this time and practice their craft and learn new crafts, you know, they'll come out of this not only better, you know, for themselves, but better for their families, better for their, you know, their friends. And, you know, it's just, you got to take advantage of this time because we never get it back. So,
what were you doing before March? What were you doing when the lockdown happened?
It was kind of weird. Like, top of the year, I was in Australia, and I was in Los Angeles for the Grammys, and then I also did a trip to Chicago for to talk with some manufacturers. But I look back on it now, and I'm like, how did I not catch anything? You know, during those times, being in planes all over the place. But, you know, thankfully nothing happened, and, you know, I made it back home safe. And March, I want to say maybe in April, I moved from New Jersey to Seattle to be with my fiance because I didn't want her to, you know, be moving during times. And that was just a change of pace. To see an airport that empty, I never thought that I would ever see that. So
so what's next? You don't know what's next. I mean, anything ramping up for you guys, or?
No, for me, it's not really. I've had a few, you know, stream recordings, and then I hand the files over to the artists, producers, and they mix it later. I've done a couple of those for Jimmy Fallon, and then like some private events that the artists perform for. But so one of the artists that I'm supposed to be working with or is supposed to go out on tour with this year is supposed to be ramping up summer of next year. But, you know, we can be hopeful for it, but, you know, you have to be ready in case that falls through, you know.
What about you, Andrew? What were you doing in March, and what have you been doing since?
I spent most of last year in Vegas with Cosmo on Aerosmith, and I actually completely forgot I was with Brandon at the Grammys. It feels like it was a year ago. It was a year ago. So I was actually in LA doing rehearsals for a Kelly Clarkson residency that was supposed to be starting in Vegas. So I was going to be bouncing between Aerosmith at the park and Kelly Clarkson at Planet Hollywood. Yeah. And we were having a normal rehearsal with that artist who also has a TV show. So it was very hit or miss getting everybody in there. And then that call came of, hey guys, we're on hold. And then, you know, an hour later it was, hey, we're going home. And then an hour later it was, we're going to stay for 3 more days, but then we're going to go home. And it just changed every minute. And so nobody really had any idea what was going to happen. Of course, when we finally got the call that we were all going home, you know, we rushed home, tried to get our supplies and everything like that. And then just kind of sat and waited. And I was furloughed with my company. So of course, you know, I was trying to find some type of other way of making ends meet. The unemployment, wasn't going to pay my bills. And so I needed to find something else. And I ended up taking up Amazon's initial offer of doing some seasonal part-time work, moving boxes. Figure we got a lot of experience doing that. So that would be something that would be easy to jump in on. And come to find out, a lot of people did the same thing. I had no intention of kind of moving up within the company. I was just going to be somebody who's, you know, on the corner. I was like, it'll be a month or two, and then I'll go back on tour, and it'll be great. And 9 months later, I got promoted up to an L4, and which is basically an area manager. Posted a funny little Instagram picture of me in my vest, and had about 6 other monitor engineer friends of mine comment of the fact that they were L3s as well at the time. And so it seems like a lot of people went that route. Actually, I just resigned Amazon, and I've taken up a house of worship position as a technical director at a church in Northern Virginia, church that I've been working with for many years. And they offered me a better paycheck than Amazon, but and it was good timing. So while I'm waiting out the rest of the pandemic, I'm going to be doing some church market stuff.
That's cool. What kind of gear do they have in there?
It's actually a pretty decent setup. I just installed a Claire i3 system in there. That was part of a project that we've been doing to redo the sound system. Lighting system's a little bit outdated. That's the next thing on our list. So is video. But as far as audio is concerned, we got an SD5 at front of house, an SD8 in broadcast, which I built that room right after the pandemic started. I want to say maybe in April, they decided that they needed to do broadcast. And so I built a broadcast room for them. And then got, in-ears and an assortment of microphones, and a new clang system came with the PA as well. So it's a nice setup. It's a great sounding room, and now with the properly tuned PA in there, it sounds great. So
great. Quake, let's move over to you. What were you doing in March when this all happened, and what's happened since?
Well, let me start by saying that first off, my career spanned over 43 years. This year is a kind of iconic year for me because it was 40 years ago, starting in October, that I was working with a band called Talus with Billy Sheehan, and we went to open for Van Halen on the Women and Children First tour. I was 19 years old. Now here I am 40 years later. 30 years ago, I was the production manager and front of house engineer for Jane's Addiction. And I had Perry Farrell come to me and say, hey, I got an idea for a tour. Last year, I had a very great tour with Slash, Miles Kennedy, and the Conspirators. Finished that, and I went to work for Stone Temple Pilots. This year, we had a tour planned for February. We were going to go do an acoustic tour. Unfortunately, the singer had injured his back, so we canceled that. He needed to get some surgery because we knew he had a very busy year planned. We had a tour in Australia that was supposed to happen in May with, it was Stone Temple Pilots live and Bush. That obviously got postponed. I had another tour with Todd Rundgren that I was going to go on as a tour manager. That's been postponed 5 different times now and pushed off until late next year. And this summer, we were supposed to be out touring with Stone Temple Pilots and Nickelback. And then I had another great year booked for next year. Well, they took our tour in Australia, moved it to February next year. And 2 weeks ago, I had a conversation with the manager, and we backed out of the whole thing just because the conditions that are being put on the folks here from the US to travel abroad are rather stringent. And I get why, the whole quarantining for 2 weeks. But first off, go to Australia, try and carry 2 weeks worth of clothes, and then try and sit in a hotel room for 2 weeks. It's not that easy. It sounds great in the beginning, but when you can't go to the bar and you can't go to the restaurant, you can't use the gym, it'll drive you crazy after a while. But the other comment I want to make to folks, and I read an interesting op-ed recently about this, and that's the fact that I also read something that Fatboy Slim put out there where a lot of us has pivoted in our worlds. I've done kind of the same thing. I had a couple of folks reach out to me that I tour with Slash, and we've been taking training in the financial planning world. And we have a thing called No Roadie Left Behind, because let's face it, we all know a lot of people in our industry that don't even have a will, let alone proper protection to take care of, what if you get hurt? What if you get sick? That type of deal. It's been a very interesting experience for that. But one of the things this op-ed said was the fact that, a lot of our hard skills of people in our industry, guys like myself and Cosmo, have been doing it for decades. Nobody told the car companies when they were failing, just go get another job. When the airline says they're going to lay off 19,000 people, they don't tell those flight attendants, just get another job. Now, when you're our age, what's available for us? I mean, you heard our associates there saying, you know, they were lucky enough to get jobs at Amazon and, you know, doing some day trading and stuff like that. And that's great, but there's only so many of those jobs available. And at my age, with my health, they probably wouldn't give me a job like that. So what's available for me? Would you like fries with that? Here's your cart. Thank you for shopping at Walmart. The hard skills that we have and the knowledge that we've acquired don't necessarily get looked at in other industries. And those soft skills that we have, communication, team building, being very self-motivated and stuff, those are kind of getting ignored as well. Now, changing industries at any time is extremely difficult. Add on top of that the pandemic, and it's made it virtually insane to try and do for many people. And there's a good quote that this young lady put down from Muhammad Ali, and it says that service to others is the rent you pay for the room you have on earth. And that's what we folks in the event industry do. We serve other people. We bring happiness to other folks. Now, as a front of house engineer for over 40 years, one of the biggest challenges I have is to not treat every show like it's just another day at the office. I have to remember that that person sitting in the seat in front of me has been waiting weeks, months even, to see that show, and that it's important for me to make it special for them. Now, unfortunately, because of the pandemic, everybody's kind of looking for a little bit something else to do. So trying to keep happy, trying to keep positive. You know, when March 13th rolled around and we watched our industry roll up, we're powerless to do anything about it. So all we can do is just keep hoping and keep pushing forward.
Now, you sort of pivoted over the years from lighting to media servers to full-time training, and talk a little bit about sort of your career path and what you're doing now.
Right. Well, I, started in touring as well back in Nashville, and did a few years, ended up going to work for a manufacturer, High-End Systems. Stayed with them for a while, and then had to basically get a little bit of a career change at the when the early 2000s came around, because of the company going through some growth and stuff like that. So that set of circumstances led me to moving to Las Vegas and switching from working from a lighting manufacturer. And it was while I was at High-End that I was introduced that Catalyst came out and all of the digital lighting fixtures that High-End developed. So I was at the forefront in the midst of all of that being developed. So it intrigued me a lot. And I while I love lighting, lighting is my passion and enjoy it immensely. I was also drawn to the creativity of using media servers with lighting. So at the time, we were pixel mapping, video mapping, projection, and all that kind of stuff was not something that lighting people really did a whole lot of. And so I kind of grew with that. And when I joined PRG, moved to Las Vegas, and in 2008, I really took on that role of a product specialist for lighting and digital media. So I threw myself into learning all of the media servers that I could get my hands on: Hypnotizer, Inbox, Archaeos, you name it, and then lighting consoles as well. And that's where I kind of found that blend of working with those things was really where I felt really well. So the end of my career with PRG, I decided in early 2019 that I was ready to kind of put the full video hat on for a while. I'd been in, a foot in each industry, and doing well and enjoying that. But I really, really understood that in order to see where that media server world was going to take me, I needed to basically just dive straight in. So I left PRG shortly before the COVID situation really even started, because I think, October is kind of when they're saying they think the first cases happened in China, maybe. So I joined Disguise in 2019 in July. So I made that career change, not based on COVID, but, you know, by the sheer grace of God, I had an opportunity come my way, and I made that change just before COVID hit. And because and I've been able to work, I've been working, you know, gratefully so, for Disguise throughout this entire pandemic situation. But I can tell you that, you know, if I had remained with PRG, I would be not working right now. Definitely would not be working as a lighting designer. I see my friends and colleagues here in Las Vegas, and you know, I've shared this with probably everyone here at some point or another in conversations, but I'm really worried for the future of Las Vegas because, number one, a lot of these shows that have been shut down for a while are so incredibly complex. Number one, take a show like Caw, for instance, that's now been shut down since March or early April. And, you know, all of the technical knowledge that it takes to run a show like that is slowly but surely getting sort of lost or not thought about. And the equipment sitting at that show, for instance, needed regular maintenance. It was an ongoing thing because it was a custom stage. It does not exist anywhere except in that theater. And it hasn't, I'm sure, unless it's they're doing it in the background, but I'm sure that stage hasn't been touched. And so I'm really worried that, I mean, we've already seen the closing of Le Rêve permanently. Zumanity announced just not long ago that they were closed permanently. I don't think that's going to be the last show. Those are the last shows. I really do feel like the longer that this situation goes on, the more of these shows just will not restage or relaunch. Now, having said that, people need to work. People need to eat. I have a lot of friends that are doing the same, you know, driving, delivering food for, you know, Uber, DoorDash, or whatever those Uber meal type places are. That's just some of the, you know, I know an excellent master electrician who decided that he was going to start a trucking company. So that's what he's doing. So, but it's taking everyone right now, you know, away from our industry here. So as the longer this goes on, the more successful they become in other things, we may not get a lot of these people to come back to the industry. So we're in Las Vegas, I think, in a unfortunately unique position. There's a huge bubble of uncertainty around the city here, and not to sound like doom and gloom, but you know, a lot of people are leaving Las Vegas. A lot of people are moving to other parts of the country to find work, and they probably will not be coming back. And so I you know, I feel for all of my friends and colleagues all over the world, because this is happening everywhere. But I definitely would not be any different if I had not made a change in my career path just prior to COVID happening. So again, I'm very grateful for that. And part of the company, you know, culture that at Disguise is that we're offering, you know, free training and free software until June. So anybody that wants to learn new skills during this time, we're trying to do everything we can to make sure that people have access to that, doing webinars and you know, that sort of thing, and doing e-learning, just so anybody that wants to learn a new skill, that, you know, so when they come out on the other side, they might have, you know, an opportunity available to them that didn't exist before. So yeah, it's been crazy, it's for sure.
What's interesting too is that you're sort of in the hot seat because all of this pivot to XR and live streaming, all this stuff that sort of started with that Katy Perry American Idol finale, Daisy's song last year. Disguise is the hub for that, which is a topic for a different webcast, but it really has put you guys in a very interesting pivot position, as it were. Let's move over to Cosmo again. And talk a little bit about, his side of the touring thing. Obviously, AC/DC has a big hit out, but they can't tour to back it up. So what's going on in your life?
Well, I mean, like Andrew said, we were doing Aerosmith at the beginning of the year, and we were having some time off anyway, but I had Aerosmith dates, Hollywood Vampire dates, back and forth, and then AC/DC was supposed to go out in November, so and carry on probably throughout next to 2021. Yeah, so I mean, the album was supposed to be released in the spring. It's supposed to drop in the spring, and I'm glad they did it now. I think the timing is good. Obviously, the world is happy. There's the only talk of the tour is that they're going to do it. As far as when, not heard any dates. I mean, Aerosmith still has dates held for next summer. Some bands have done it. They just keep postponing till the next year and so on and so forth. But fortunately, Aerosmith is keeping it. I've seen Joe Perry, and he's said that they're hoping to tour next summer. So at least they're thinking that way. Work-wise, obviously not much. I did get offered a gig. The 82nd Airborne does a Christmas concert. The 82nd Airborne Band up in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. They do a Christmas concert every year. And somehow my name got put in the hat, and they asked me if I would come up and do it. So I'm going up there for about a week to run lights. It's a drive-in type of show at the parade grounds there at Fort Bragg. So I'm really excited and looking forward to that because I love the military and anything I can do. And, I'm being paid and it's going to be, it's work. It's a lot of fun. Hopefully I can remember how to program a Grand MA too, but I'm sure I'll be good. But yeah, go ahead.
Take Vickie with you.
Yeah, come on.
I'll go.
Didn't you go to New York for the September 1st tribute as well?
Well, that's the thing. I've always gone to New York when I can for the September 11th anniversary, just because I'm not from New York, but I live there, so I always felt the need to be there. So I go up there anyway, and I know a lot of people. So Michael Ahern and I worked with Michael back in the day, and so I know the team that puts it together. And they almost canceled it, and I was just talking to them, and they through talking and fighting for it came back, and they asked me if I would come up and be on the team. So I got to do another honorable gig, and I got paid for it as well. It was fantastic to go up and do that and be part of that. The nation's eyes were on it, and it means so much to me. So that was fantastic. So talking about pivoting, I mean, I've always thought, it's going to come back. It's all the music is going to come back and stuff. Unfortunately, a lot of the bands that I work for can die. I mean, if you work for Van Halen, it's done, and I feel sorry for acts that wanted to tour now that can't because of the pandemic. So that's the worst thing, but it's going to come back, and we'll be back on the road, and it's going to be like a train. It's going to start slowly, but it's going to go. And, I put a meme up on my Facebook page the other day. I wish I could do 2 tours at once, because that's what's going to happen.
So, one of the things that's nice about NAMM and about LDI and USITT and Pro Light and Sound is it's a great way to get together with people, to pick up on new technology, to hug your friends, to, go out to meals and really share information, networking. So what have you all been doing to keep up with your communities during this time?
Well, I know that the We Make Events community that has developed out of the original, I guess they were virtual social happy hours that Marcel and a small group of people from our industry, they've grown into, I mean, Ellen, you could probably tell more than me, but I know there's, at least 1,000 people probably now in the virtual social happy hour. But honestly, I think using Zoom, Google Hangouts, all these virtual meeting platforms has been absolutely critical for staying connected with each other. I mean, I just can't imagine, if we were going through this 20 years ago before, we were really as integrated in with these virtual meeting platforms, how we would get through it. I don't know. I really don't. I don't know. Waiting for a magazine or article to come out or post on a website, but so I'm very grateful for these Zoom meetings. It's a little bit of Zoom fatigue, hopping between different meetings, but several different friends of mine have started different types of groups to keep connected with different people. So I just try to attend all of them that I can, when it's possible, and just to say hi, see some faces that I miss. This is a family. It's an extended, beloved family, and seeing each other once in a while was made it all worth it when you'd show up on site and there'd be a familiar face. So definitely important to stay connected.
Brandon, what about you when you're not day trading? You staying in touch with people?
Yeah, I actually have a WhatsApp group with a couple of fellow sound engineers and musicians that, I've built long-lasting relationships over the past 4 or 5 years of touring. And, they've all kind of have, started the day trading thing as well. And every morning, when I'm in New Jersey now, but when I'm back in Seattle, I start my day at 4 a.m. and they're up, at the same time, they're up at 7 a.m. on the East Coast, and we just communicate all day. And it's just it's like our little family. It's our tour family, but we're trading stocks, and it's refreshing, because it's like, we used to talk about audio stuff. Well, what microphones we like, what speakers we like. But today, in today's world, we're talking about what ticker is going to possibly make us some money. And it's just interesting to see the dynamic just shift, and it's every day that we talk. It's nice.
You miss it? You miss it? You want to go back to audio?
Sometimes. I mean, there's, the luck of the market. There's sometimes I've made more money in a week than I've ever, double my rate in a week, It's difficult. I will say it's very difficult to go back to, putting myself in danger or putting my fiance in danger because she has an underlying condition, to go make money on the road when I can just pull in at least my day rate a day, you know what I mean? And it's like, when you weigh the options, which one is worth it? And for me right now, trading is worth it for me. I'm sure when stuff starts to open back up and I'll get that itch back to want to go mix a show. But right now it's kind of focused at home,
Andrew, what about you?
I mean, I've definitely been, kind of doing this, the typical, keeping in touch, texting people every once in a while, getting phone calls, jumping in on different chat rooms, different panels, just doing the best we can to keep in touch with everybody. I mean, social media is a very nice tool that we have nowadays to be able to communicate with everybody. Sometimes, like an election season, it gets a little bit overwhelming, but a lot of the time it's nice to hop on there and, see what everybody's up to. I mean, I got to say with the Amazon job for the last couple of months, I've been incredibly busy doing night shift. So I've not been awake when most people are awake. And switching back to daytime has been really nice this last week and a half, being able to actually talk to people again during the hours that they're awake. But, I think that everybody just does the best they can. They try to keep in touch with everybody that they can. Every once in a while, get a text message from somebody who you hadn't talked to in a while. And, it's nice to catch up for a little while. And then, you talk to somebody else. But I mean, I think that everybody's just trying to, do the best they can to keep their sanity. That's something that's always been a very hard part about what we do, is keeping your mind and body in balance, and, keeping the stress levels down, and your personal health has always been a struggle for a lot of people in this industry. And so I think that this is also kind of a nice breather for everyone, to kind of de-stress and to kind of, recenter yourself and hopefully hit the ground running soon, back on tour. So
Great. Cosmo?
Well, I mean, I have a huge network of friends around the world, and I'm used to seeing them because I tour 9-10 months of the year anyway. So it's been difficult not seeing friends face to face. I'm a big hugger. I'm a big person about sitting across the table from my friends, and I miss that terribly. But I've used FaceTime a lot. That's great. I like Andrew said, I spend a lot of time texting, because it's something you just send a message and it just, people are happy to hear from you. And sometimes it turns into phone calls the one thing I found that I've enjoyed is I've been, because of all the bands I've worked with, there's a lot of people who do podcasts who want me to be a guest, which I'm honored to be a guest, but I find it's easier for me to reach a lot of my friends because they'll get in touch with me and say, "Oh, I saw your podcast," or "I heard your podcast," and it's great to get to all my friends in one hit as opposed, Zoom's good, but when you got 50 or 60 people on a Zoom call, it's difficult to talk to them all. It's good to see faces. That's one thing I love about Marcel's happy hour is I get to see faces and we text during it. But yeah, I do miss my friends and I had COVID a couple of months ago, and since I've gotten over it, I feel safer about going places. And, I've gone down to see Brian Johnson, and Joe Perry, who both live in Sarasota. And I've seen a few friends around the area, and that's really helped both, me and my friends. And it just gives you, there's light at the end of the tunnel. And when you feel that personal hug or, even face to face, it's so much better. But yeah, it's definitely different. I'll be glad to I just can't be glad to take a trip.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to see you all and give everybody a big hug. In the meantime, this is the best we can do. Yes, and on behalf of We Make Events North America, I'd especially like to thank the Audio Engineering Society, Colleen and Graham, for having us do this opportunity, this wonderful Zoom call. And we look forward to seeing you all the next time we can all be together. Thanks.
Hi, this is George Massenberg at Leapers Fork, Tennessee.
Konnichiwa.
Kalimera.
Привет.
Ciao.
大家好。
Hola.
G'day.
Bom dia.
Cześć. Greetings.
Hola.
If you're not a member yet, I'd like to invite you to go to aes.org/join and become a member today. An AES membership carries incredible value, talks with experts, networking opportunities, a wealth of knowledge in the e-library, with papers dating back to the earliest days of AES. The AES Live videos was an extraordinary collection of educational videos from the most notable experts and on topics ranging from recording and production, EDM, forensic audio, hip-hop and R&B, game audio, immersive audio, live sound, and so much more. And this is not even including access to all the events, conferences, conventions, symposia, institutes, and academies. We have many great events coming up in 2021 and many opportunities to learn, connect, and come together. So if you're not a member, join today.
Come on, up again, come on. Come on, AES, on your feet.
I think that the AES convention is probably the most important one in terms of news, in terms of new technologies and stuff like that.
Thank you so much.